most class action suits that I've seen, because I believe Vermont Nassar was very clear that this is a class action
point
suit.
I want to get to, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, most class action suits that I've ever seen always result in a financial payout.
Correct.
And I go, is that what you're asking for? And they go, no, we're not asking for a financial payout. I go, well, what's the other option?
So
they said clear structural change.
I want to take some time with what you just said. Okay. So when you to get class actions lawsuits, 99% of the time end up in a payout.
Yeah.
Does that payout go, Chris Eubanks? You're not on the lawsuit. Do you get $1 of that payout if it happens?
I'm guessing no.
Okay. I'm guessing no also. I'm not a lawyer. You said you were a college dropout. I didn't even make it that far. Right. So 99% of them, and they keep saying we want to go to trial. If you wanted to go to trial, you probably would have filed it differently. Like just based on history of forever.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So it's this weird thing where they're saying one thing and their actions again lend themselves to a certain type of result. The other thing I want to ask you, Chris, is because there's a fair amount of doubles players and executive committee members. They said their response to Novak not being on the suit, well, he's involved, so therefore it's implied. But yet then they also put like 3 or 4 or 5 current executive members on the suit also. So apparently they weren't implied, but one was. So that's neither here nor there. But like there's just no chance that they can file it that way and also pretend like they want to stand up on a trial. And the Live Golf, the reason that they've come to this impasse is basically for both of them to avoid discovery. But so however many doubles players on the suit, right? So let's think if we started everything from scratch right now. Okay. So do they think that they would get 20% of the weekly take in prize money with anything starting from scratch right now? Do they think there's a better option out there?
Oh, that's a good question.
If it blows up and we start over, if we blow this up and it starts over, the people on the lawsuit, do they think they're going to get more than 20% of a weekly take on whatever?
Because for those who don't know, that's the take home that doubles has to be allocated of the prize money of each tournament's now. 20% of the tournament prize money has to go to doubles. So you're asking, are they going to get now 30%, 40% for doubles players if in this new system that blows up? I doubt it.
The answer is I'm pretty sure there aren't monsters under my daughter's bed.
And if you had any doubt, you would ask named plaintiff Riley Opelka what he thought.
Let me get into this too. So, like, just so we're clear, and I think Riley might be the smartest person in this suit because he simultaneously, in so many words, said about a month ago that doubles players shouldn't have jobs, and then now he's on a lawsuit with a bunch of doubles players where they're saying we want more, and I think he fully well knows that they wouldn't get their 20% weekly if this actually landed. JW, what am I missing there?
Well, I think it goes beyond that. If this is all about, hey, let the free market do its thing.
That's not what they want. I'm just telling you now, that's not what they want.
They said, you read the lawsuit and it's all about letting the free market doing these things, all these restrictions on trade, all of these monopolistic practices. You know what happens? I mean, we can talk about this, but you know what happens if the free market does its thing? The tournaments say, I don't want doubles. I don't want a 96 draw. I want an 8 draw. I want to pay Carlos Alcaraz $2 million this week to play 3 round robin matches. If we're going to go free market, that goes on both sides of the net here. And I think tennis could look fundamentally different and not bigger.
Yeah. Yes. I have nothing to add to that. Like, I don't think that all of a sudden you have a pot of money and you're going to choose to give it to people that, if you have a one-off event and it's an open market, that open market's going to go to the most valuable assets even more because the infrastructure has changed. I don't know this. You mentioned it, Chris. And again, I'm not a lawyer. Hopefully there's one in the comments. Can a jury dictate the structural change?
Yeah. I asked the same thing.
That's not something that a jury is like, okay, we award for the plaintiffs, and because of that, you have to change your org chart.
Yeah, you have to give 6 player votes now to the 4 of the tournament. Like, I was wondering that same thing, because the response that I got was, oh, no, we don't want cash payout. We want clear structural change. The first thing in my head was exactly what you said. How is a jury going to decide what an organization has to do, how an organization has to change the makeup and the decision-making process within their company or their organization?
Well, producer Mike.
Yeah, that was a bit baffling.
I think that's where it's interesting, right? Because the U.S. claim is something that they want a jury trial. There'll be damages awarded if the jury decides that there is damages to be awarded, and there'll be discovery. The other two, and John, maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, the UK and the EU filings, those are more regulatory. So those would be more about structural change. But the question is, what really can those bodies change about the way those federations do business? I think that's something we would need more legal counsel on, is like, there is a strategy by these people. They are smart attorneys. They are filing it this way for a reason. The question is why?
And producer Mike, just to be sure, to be clear, apparently the attorney that's heading this has a long track record of doing these type of cases with sports organizations. I believe his name is James Quinn. I believe he may have been the lawyer who worked with Oscar Robertson
I can jump in. Exactly.
Yeah, JW, you can give more. So apparently he knows what he's doing. Apparently.
Well, one of the subtexts of this is that this is Weil Gotshal, which traditionally has handled labor side. I mean, Jeffrey Kessler, remember, who has been so instrumental in so many sports law cases, he comes out of that firm. The other side that the ATP represent is Proskauer, where David Stern was once a lawyer. So this is sort of classic New York firms that have had many battles through the years with lawyers on both sides in many sports disputes. I mean, James Quinn, probably best known for Freeman McNeil's free agency, with led to it. And I mean, there's a long history of sports law wrapped up in this suit. I don't think this is ever going to go to trial. I mean, and I think, to your point, Mike, I think that's a good one. I mean, juries determine guilt and innocence, and they can weigh in on damages. I don't think they're going to say, oh, the council needs 2 more members, and we're going to have to, we need one more 500 level event. I mean, I don't think they're going to get into the under the hood and the nitty gritty of tennis structure. But I think, look, just big picture on all this. I think the PTPA felt as though they weren't taken seriously, and they tried to get meetings on the books. I think the ATP looked at them and said, wait, when you get Carlos Alcaraz and Novak and Coco and Yannick Sinner banging their endorsed footwear on tables, then we'll take you seriously.
Or any collection of a majority of players that you can actually tell me their names.
Right. Exactly. And did you know, this is a side point, but it goes to something Chris said. Did you notice that not a single one of the Players Advisory Board members, these are the guys in the room, these are the guys who presumably are really seeing how the sausage is made. Isn't it weird that not one of them appears in this suit? I mean, if you really thought this was a corrupt organization, and again, these are, let's just be honest, these are sort of Trumpian terms, right? We have to smash institutions, so everything is necessarily, it's deep state and it's conspiracy and it's corrupt. Wouldn't a couple of the players who've seen under the hood be really good people to include in this lawsuit? And yet I do not see any of them named.
Yeah, yes. When you're met with silence, it means I have nothing more to add to what you just said.
Same.
Like,
you hit the nail on the head.
I do like one more point on that, because the UFC just settled. John, you know that the UFC settled like kind of an antitrust case. They had a bunch of fighters. They filed their case in 2014, and it just got approval for a $300 and some million settlement. Right? It didn't even go to trial. That was 12 years ago. So how fast do we think this is actually going to do anything? Is the PTPA going to have enough funds to fight this thing for 12 years? I know, right? Like, are certain supporters going to keep that going?
So I got sent a basically. I got sent by someone else a most frequently asked questions list that they sent out, I think, to players. I don't know if it was to coaches. I don't know if it was to agents. But one of the questions was who's funding this? And they said something, and then they said their answer was the PTPA is funding this, and the PTPA is well funded. Great. So the question was, who's funding this? and they also mentioned their commercial deals and properties that they've done. And I beat him up over the sports card deal on the show we did in the fall, and asked him how much a player would get, how much Chris Eubanks would get. And there wasn't really, well, in time, maybe it could be. I'm like, all right, great. So we don't know. But they say like, oh, we've done deals, so we're flush with cash. I'm like, so if you've done deals, for the PTPA and its members, whoever they may be, are the members in the room with us now, you're taking that money to fund this lawsuit now? Does that mean it's not going to the players?
Do you remember how hard we had to work to get a straight? I mean, supposedly there's $100 million worth of capitalization. That's a lot of fathead deals.
I was sitting there an hour later and I was embarrassed because it was the worst parts of myself when I feel like I'm not getting a straight answer. I can't handle it, or when I'm really passionate about something. Brooke, my wife, listened back to it and she's like, I think I need therapy after listening to you do that to someone for an hour. So I didn't feel good about it. But the facts are the facts. Like, I would ask a question and I would rarely get an answer that didn't sound like a stump speech full of buzzwords. You know, and now this is I think this is the lawsuit version of that interview, where it's like there's a lot of good points. I fully believe it was founded with the best of intentions. I fully believe that.
100% agree with you.
I fully believe that we need a more robust, I would dare say, and this isn't a small word, organized voice for the players. Not just any voice, because the thing I get is, well, what have you done? I'm like, but I'm not claiming that I represent all players. Like, there's it's very different. You know, if I did, it would I'd hopefully be able to tell you who actually agreed to my representation. That's not a small part of this.